He was tiny, overlooked, and told he'd never make it in the NHL. So how could a kid like this ever turn hockey into a career, let alone become a Hall of Famer? Well, what if I told you that this same kid went undrafted, got cut by his first team, and still ended up a Stanley Cup champion, a league MVP, and one of the most unstoppable players of his era, all at just 5'8" in a league built for giants? Yes, Martin St. Louis entered the NHL as an afterthought, but today he's remembered as one of the greatest underdog stories in hockey history. So, how did he go from too small to unstoppable? And what makes his rise so legendary even today? Martin St. Louis was born on June 18, 1975, in Laval, Quebec, a hockey-crazy suburb of Montreal. From the start, he faced a major obstacle: his size. Listed at just 5'8", 173 centimeters during his playing days, St. Louis was routinely one of the smallest players on the ice, but what he lacked in size he made up for in passion. As a kid, he was so obsessed with hockey that he would be waiting at 7 a.m. with his skates on for his father, who worked overnight shifts, to take him to the local outdoor rink. No winter chill could slow young Marty's enthusiasm. He idolized fellow undersized NHL star Mats Naslund, 5'7", even choosing to wear Naslund's number 26 as an homage when he later turned pro. By all accounts, St. Louis had the skill and the drive of a future hockey star, but many doubted he had the body for it. Even as a kid, St. Louis was underestimated. At age 12, he was cut from his elite youth team. 2 years later, at 14, he was cut again from the top Bantam under-14 squad. Coaches simply saw him as too small. In one provincial midget tournament, he led his division in scoring, yet he was passed over for the All-Star Select team due to his size. These early snubs only fueled St. Louis' determination. Being cut makes you want things a little more, he later reflected, noting that by age 15-16, he started proving he could handle the physical play, despite his smaller frame. In his mid-teens, St. Louis dominated lower-tier Double B leagues, when higher-level coaches wouldn't pick him for Double A, racking up confidence and skill in the process. The message from the hockey world was clear: you're good, but you're just too small. Martin St. Louis' entire career would become a crusade to prove them all wrong. And speaking of fighting through doubt and setbacks, let's take a quick moment to talk about something just as important as physical toughness: mental resilience. Because whether you're chasing your dreams like Marty, or just navigating day-to-day life, having someone in your corner can make all the difference. That's why we're partnering with BetterHelp, the world's largest online therapy platform. BetterHelp connects you with licensed professional therapists who can support you through anxiety, stress, self-confidence, or anything else you're dealing with, all from the comfort of your own home. No waiting rooms, no driving across town, no pressure. You start by answering a few questions about your needs and preferences, and within 48 hours, you'll be matched with a therapist who's right for you. You can message them anytime, schedule weekly live video or phone sessions, or even access support groups and journaling tools. It's affordable, flexible, and if your therapist isn't the right fit, you can switch, no questions asked. So, if you're ready to prioritize your mental health, head to betterhelp.com/IceFlix to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/IceFlix, ICEFLIX. Now, back to Marty's journey. In the 1991-92 season, playing for the Laval-Laurentide regions, St. Louis put up an outrageous 103 points in 42 games. He led all of Quebec Midget AAA in scoring with 29 goals and 74 assists, winning the league scoring title by a landslide. The undersized forward from Laval was officially a local phenom. Still, St. Louis wasn't really on any NHL scout's radar. A 5'8" winger, generously rounded up, he was actually 5'7.5", Marty was tiny by hockey standards of the early 90s. He had skill and speed for days, but conventional wisdom said smaller players couldn't survive in the big bruising NHL, especially at that time. Martin was determined to prove conventional wisdom wrong, but first, he'd have to find someone willing to give him a shot. In 1993, after putting up a nasty 87 points in 31 games with the Hawkesbury Hawks of the CJHL, St. Louis took his talents to the U.S. college ranks, accepting a scholarship from the University of Vermont Catamounts. He reportedly had interest from nearly 30 Division I programs, but chose Vermont partly because it was just a 2.5-hour drive for his parents to watch him play. Family mattered to Marty. There, In the humble confines of the Gutterson Fieldhouse, the small kid from Laval became a campus legend. As soon as St. Louis hit the ice for Vermont, the spark was obvious. He made that place electric, said UVM coach Mike Gilligan. When he touched the puck, everybody would get out of their seat. I haven't heard noise like that since. Alongside lifelong friend and teammate Eric Perrin, a fellow undersized Quebecois forward, St. Louis shredded the competition. He was an NCAA all-rookie selection as a freshman and never looked back. By the end of his 4 years at Vermont, Marty had rewritten the record books. He set school records for both assists and points, finishing as Vermont's all-time leading scorer with 267 points. He was a Hobey Baker finalist, the Heisman Trophy of college hockey, 3 years in a row. Essentially, one of the top players in the entire country year after year. On paper, Martin St. Louis had a can't-miss resume. What more could an NHL team want? Yet incredibly, every NHL team passed on him. Not just once, but twice. St. Louis went undrafted in both the 1996 and 1997 NHL drafts. Teams just couldn't see past his height. The notion of a 5'8" forward succeeding in the NHL was so against the grain in the 90s that they ignored all of his production. Too small, not worth a pick. It was déjà vu from his youth hockey days, now playing out on a big league stage. St. Louis himself couldn't help but notice the injustice. As a teenager, he had played against a prodigy named, as most hockey fans probably know, Alexander Daig in Quebec. Daig was taken number 1 overall in the 1993 NHL draft. A few years later, Marty had become a college star, yet he wasn't picked at all. I grew up playing against Daig, St. Louis said. He goes to Ottawa as the number 1 pick in 93, and I'm a freshman in college and not drafted. Was Alex better than me? Yeah, but not to the point of him being first overall and me not being drafted at all. The sting of being overlooked was forming a permanent chip on St. Louis' shoulder, one that would motivate him for years to come, if it wasn't already. Since NHL teams wouldn't come to him, Martin went to them, the hard way. After graduation in 1997, he tried to earn a spot via NHL tryouts. The Ottawa Senators gave him a look, but even they released him from a tryout with no contract. Undeterred, St. Louis headed to the minor leagues to keep chasing the dream. He signed with the Cleveland Lumberjacks of the old IHL, the International Hockey League, essentially hockey's equivalent of taking the long road through the wilderness. There, he proved himself yet again, putting up 50 points in 56 games in 1997-98. His mindset was simple. If I dominate here, someone in the NHL will notice. Finally, someone did. A Calgary Flames scout watching the IHL saw the spark in St. Louis and convinced the Flames to sign the undrafted 23-year-old to a contract in early 1998. At last, Marty had his foot in the NHL door. A chance, however small, to show what he could do. But his fight for acceptance was far from over. St. Louis' NHL debut with the Calgary Flames in 1998 was, in one word, underwhelming. The Flames, like everyone else, couldn't see past his size. They slotted the 5'8" newbie into a limited, grinding role. Fourth-line minutes, penalty-killing duty. Martin was grateful to be in the NHL, but this wasn't exactly playing to his strengths. He had spent his life tucking by the bucketful, yet Calgary wanted him to focus on defensive responsibility and energy shifts. As a result, his numbers weren't too crazy. Just 4 goals in 69 games over 2 seasons with the Flames. Hardly anyone noticed when he was in the lineup, and often he was out of it, a healthy scratch, watching from the press box. It wasn't all Calgary's fault. St. Louis himself later admitted that in those early NHL days, he wasn't mentally ready for the big stage. I was putting the NHL on such a pedestal. I was up and down and so nervous when I got to play in the league, he reflected. The bright lights of the show had him overthinking and gripping his stick too tight. He was a long way from the confident kid who tore up UVM. The Flames' patience ran out quickly. After the 99-2000 season, Calgary left St. Louis unprotected in the NHL expansion draft, basically exposing him to be picked up by a new team. None of the new franchises took him. Seeing the writing on the wall, Calgary then bought out his contract in the summer of 2000, essentially firing the undersized winger to free up a roster spot. I was fired, St. Louis said bluntly of his Calgary exit. In the span of a couple of years, he had gone from college superstar to minor league hopeful to an NHL afterthought on the verge of washing out. He was 25 years old, hanging on to his NHL dream by a thread. For Martin, it was once again déjà vu all over again. another organization concluding he was too small or not good enough. The Calgary Flames had given up on him, and it looked like the rest of the league might do the same. It's hard to blame St. Louis if doubt began to creep in at this point. How many times could one player be told you're not big enough before believing it? But in the darkest moment of Martin St. Louis' career, a spark of hope emerged from an unlikely place and a team that had nothing to lose. In the summer of 2000, while most teams weren't paying attention, the Tampa Bay Lightning took a flyer on the small winger that Calgary cast aside. On July 31st, 2000, Martin St. Louis signed a modest 2-year, $550,000 deal with Tampa Bay, a bargain basement contract for an NHL player even then. Tampa was a young, struggling franchise at the time, desperate for talent. What did they have to lose by giving this pint-sized forward a shot? For St. Louis, it was the lifeline he needed, and probably the last one he'd ever get. At first, it looked like more of the same. The Lightning, like Calgary, started St. Louis in a bottom 6 role, and his first 20 games in Tampa produced only 6 points. He even found himself watching from the stands as a healthy scratch. Again. Marty felt the clock ticking on his career. I felt like my days were numbered in the NHL, he admitted. I thought, if I can't play for Tampa Bay, I'm done. So I'm like, you have to go down swinging. This wasn't just a figure of speech. It was a mindset shift. St. Louis essentially told himself, play your game, be aggressive, leave it all out there. Like Tampa, what did he have to lose at that point? If he was going to fail, he'd fail on his own terms. The Lightning's coach at the time, Steve Ludzik, noticed the change. St. Louis started attacking more, using his speed and skill instead of playing it safe. Ludzik began giving him more opportunities, and Marty ran with them. In his first full season as a Lightning, 2000-2001, St. Louis broke out with 18 goals and 40 points, finally showing that offensive spark in the NHL. Ludzik loved the newfound tenacity. He's been told throughout his career that because of his size, he can't advance, the coach said. That gets him pissed off. That's a constant motivation. Indeed, Marty was playing like a man possessed, determined to prove he belonged. But it wasn't a straight climb just yet. In the 2001-02 season, St. Louis was on a pace for a career year when disaster struck. He fractured his right fibula, his leg bone, in a freak collision. A titanium plate and 6 screws were inserted to fix the break. To any player, let alone one whose game relied on quickness, this kind of injury could be career-changing. True to form, Martin turned it into just another challenge to overcome. He attacked rehab with ferocity, lifting like a madman, endless stationary bike sessions, even hopping up and down rows of bleachers to rebuild his leg strength. By June, only a few months later, he was back on skates, preparing for the next season. The injury was just another test of his resilience, one that he passed with flying colors. Then came 2003-2004, the season everything changed. St. Louis was fully healthy, in his prime at 28, and Tampa Bay's faith in him was about to pay off like you read about. Paired on top lines with talented centers like Brad Richards and Vincent Lecavalier, Martin exploded for 38 goals and 56 assists, 94 points, to capture the Hart Trophy as the NHL's leading scorer. Think about that. Undrafted, twice looked off, Martin St. Louis led the entire NHL in points. And he didn't stop there. He was voted the Hart Memorial Trophy winner as the league's most valuable player. And the players themselves voted him for the Ted Lindsay Award, the most outstanding player that year. Oh, and he just so happened to lead the Tampa Bay Lightning to their first ever Stanley Cup championship in the spring of 2004. In one absurd year, St. Louis achieved a hockey trifecta that no one had done since Wayne Gretzky in the 1980s. Win the Art Ross, the Hart, and the Stanley Cup in the same season. It was the ultimate I told you so to every scout, coach, and GM who had underestimated him. The small kid from Laval was now undisputably the best player in the game. The 2004 playoff run cemented St. Louis' superstar status. He tallied 24 points in 23 playoff games and delivered one of the most clutch goals in Lightning history. Facing Calgary, his old team, in the Stanley Cup final, Tampa Bay was down 3-2 in the series. In Game 6, double overtime, St. Louis swooped in and scored the game winner to keep the Lightning alive. It was poetic. The guy Calgary let go, even labeled a one-time Calgary reject in news headlines, came back to break Calgary's heart. I was just trying to get as much of the puck as I could, St. Louis said of that OT goal. It wasn't a good angle, but I just wanted to put the rebound on net. Puck found twine, and Tampa Bay went on to win Game 7 and hoist the cup. Martin St. Louis had reached the pinnacle of hockey, and he did it in storybook fashion. A Stanley Cup ring, MVP honors, the scoring title, Martin St. Louis had achieved everything he dreamed of and more. You might think that that would be the end of the underdog story, but Marty was not done making the experts eat crow. Next up, he'd show the world that 2004 was no fluke, building a legacy of sustained excellence and mentoring the next generation of stars in the process. After 2004, Martin St. Louis could have easily faded back into a good, not great player. Sometimes, athletes hit that one peak and never reach it again. Not St. Louis. He was determined to show he belonged at the top year after year, and that's exactly what he did. In the 5 or 6 seasons after the Cup, St. Louis topped 80-plus points in a season 5 times, consistently among the NHL's elite scorers. Far from kicking his feet up, he kept his foot on the gas. The Lightning didn't immediately repeat their championship. The team around him had ups and downs, but Marty remained one of the best players in the league well into his 30s. He and his line mate star center Vincent Lecavalier became one of the NHL's most dynamic duos in the late 2000s. The two had a natural chemistry, perhaps forged from years of training together and a shared French-Canadian connection, and they pushed each other to new heights. In 2006-2007, for instance, Lecavalier won the Rocket Richard Trophy with a league-leading 52 goals, while St. Louis hit a career-high 102 points that same year, finishing among the top scorers yet again. As soon as he got that chance in Tampa, you could tell right away he would play for a lot of years. He had an unbelievable career, Lecavalier said of his longtime teammate. The two pals, along with other centerman Brad Richards, who together were nicknamed the Three Amigos in Tampa, formed the core of a Lightning offense that struck fear into opponents on a nightly basis. St. Louis also began to embrace a new role in these years, mentor. As he grew from scrappy underdog into a veteran leader, he wanted to help younger players avoid the same pitfalls he faced. In 2008, the Lightning drafted a teenage phenom, Steven Stamkos, first overall, the kind of blue-chip can't-miss prospect Marty never was. Rather than be resentful, St. Louis took the 18-year-old Stamkos under his wing. "I came to Tampa, and he's a guy that really put me under his wing," Stamkos later said. The veteran taught the kid what it took to be a pro, from training to preparation to attitude. You heard all the stories about how hard he worked, but to actually see it as an 18-year-old, it blew my mind. He really taught me what it was to be a pro. I owe a lot to him, Stamkos recalled gratefully. Under St. Louis' guidance, Stamkos blossomed into a superstar goal scorer and eventually the captain of the Lightning, literally inheriting the C from Marty when St. Louis left the team. To this day, Stamkos credits St. Louis for everything. "The player and person I became is directly influenced from Martin St. Louis." Even as new stars rose around the league, St. Louis refused to be overshadowed. In fact, he pulled off one of his most astonishing feats at an age when most players are winding down. In the lockout-shortened 2012-13 season, a 36-year-old Martin St. Louis led the entire NHL in scoring, 60 points in 48 games, and claimed his second Hart Trophy. He became the oldest player ever to win an NHL scoring title, doing so in a season where most of his peers from the 1990s were long retired. That second Hart Trophy at 36 years old is something, because he wouldn't let anybody talk him into thinking he couldn't do it because of his age or his physical stature, said Brad Richards, praising his friend's relentless drive. Indeed, St. Louis still played like he had something to prove. Yet again, a chip on his shoulder that never went away. By this point, St. Louis had earned the ultimate sign of respect. He was named captain of the Lightning in 2013, succeeding the departed Lecavalier. Not bad for a guy who once had to beg for a tryout. In early 2014, feeling the pull of home and family and reportedly upset over a perceived Team Canada Olympic snub, St. Louis requested a trade from Tampa Bay, a shocking move given he was the franchise icon. The Lightning granted his wish, trading him to the New York Rangers in March of 2014. There, at age 38, St. Louis proved he had plenty of magic left. In the 2014 playoffs, he became the emotional leader of a Rangers team on a run to the Stanley Cup final. Mid-playoffs, tragically, Marty's mother passed away suddenly. Yet he courageously returned to the lineup within days, scoring an iconic overtime goal on Mother's Day that helped spark the Rangers' comeback from a 3-1 series deficit. His new teammates were in shock as he led them all the way to Game 5 of the Cup final, where they ultimately fell short. Even as an old man in hockey terms, St. Louis' passion and clutch play burned as bright as ever. By the end of the 2014-15 season, coming up on 40, St. Louis finally began to show a little rust. He posted 52 points that year, Solid by normal standards, but his lowest output in over a decade. Father Time, undefeated as always, was catching up. Martin St. Louis decided to retire in the summer of 2015, hanging up his skates after an incredible 16-year NHL career. The undersized kid who was never supposed to play in the NHL ended up playing 1,134 games, scoring 391 goals and 1,033 points in the big leagues. He left the game still near the top of his ability and with the admiration of everyone around him. Martin St. Louis' playing days were over, but the underdog kid from Laval wasn't done making an impact. The final chapter of our story isn't about goals or trophies. It's about the legacy of inspiration he left behind, and how hockey fans and fellow players remember the legend who made everyone who doubted him look utterly foolish. Martin St. Louis' career ended, fittingly, with honors fit for a legend. In January 2017, the Tampa Bay Lightning raised his number 26 to the rafters, the first player in franchise history to have his jersey retired. A year later, in 2018, St. Louis received hockey's ultimate praise, induction into the Hockey Hall of Fame, forever enshrining his underdog story among the greats of the game. Not bad for a player who'd been passed over by every team in the draft, eh? When you look back at what St. Louis accomplished, it's hard not to shake your head, partly in admiration, partly at the sheer absurdity of how wrong everyone was about him. This man won almost every major award you can win. 2 Art Ross trophies, 1 Hart Trophy, 1 Ted Lindsay Award, 3 Lady Byng trophies for sportsmanship, and of course, the Stanley Cup. He was a 6-time All-Star. He even added an Olympic gold medal in 2014 with Team Canada, after initially being snubbed for that team, ironically. His raw stats, over 1,000 points, 6 30-plus goal seasons, etc., put him in elite company, and he did all of it as a 5'8" undrafted player in the era of big man's hockey. Truly extraordinary. But perhaps the greatest legacy of Martin St. Louis isn't in the record books. It's in the hearts of fans and the players he inspired. He became the living embodiment of that old saying, "It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog." Every time a smaller player hears "you're too short" and thinks of St. Louis, Marty's story lives on. Johnny Hockey Gaudreau, rest in peace. A fellow undersized winger who reached the NHL a decade after St. Louis, cited Marty as a role model. He's a prime example that size doesn't matter. If you have the heart and the work ethic, you can achieve anything. Gaudreau, generously listed at 5'9", found confidence watching St. Louis thrive and went on to become a star himself. In Calgary, no less, the very franchise that had given up on St. Louis years before. Former teammates speak of St. Louis with an approval usually reserved for giants of the game. Heart and soul is the phrase that comes up again and again. Steven Stamkos says that beyond stats and accolades, it was how Marty carried himself that influenced everyone. The stats will speak for themselves, but it's what he teaches guys. He was almost a perfectionist. We'd spend hours watching our shifts together, making sure we were on the same page, Stamkos recalls. St. Louis' tireless work ethic and attention to detail set the standard in the locker room. Teammate Dan Boyle, who is the same age as St. Louis, still looked up to him as an example. "He keeps you at your best," Boyle said. "He's always been one of those guys I've looked up to." Even the famously stoic John Tortorella had to acknowledge the fire that drove Marty. Every time someone told St. Louis he wasn't good enough, that gets him pissed off, and then Marty would go out and prove them wrong. Perhaps Martin's own words best explain what propelled him from anonymity to legendary status. Reflecting on his career, St. Louis said, "I felt that it's my resiliency that got me into the league and got me to play at the level I did, and kept me at that level for a long time. I always felt I worked extra hard, and I think the fans could see that and appreciate that." Indeed, fans did see it and appreciate it. In Tampa Bay, he's not just a Hall of Famer. He's the beloved founding father of their franchise's winning culture. The little big man who delivered a Stanley Cup and showed that anything is possible. Martin St. Louis' story is one of the greatest underdog tales in NHL history, bar none. It's the kind of journey that sounds like a Hollywood script. The kid who was cut from youth teams, undrafted, unwanted, who somehow became a league MVP and lifts the Stanley Cup. If you tried to pitch that story, most folks would laugh it off as too far-fetched. But it happened. We all saw it. Marty made believers out of the skeptics, and in doing so, he paved the way for a new generation of players who didn't fit the old molds. In the end, as we've said many times, Martin St. Louis made the entire hockey world eat its words. Every person who said, "too short, too small, too risky," had to watch him lift trophies and break records. He went from the star nobody wanted to a Hall of Famer everyone respects. And the best part? He did it with a mix of electrifying skill, relentless hard work, and a joy for the game that was infectious. The NHL will forever remember the little big man who played with a huge heart. Martin St. Louis proved that true greatness isn't measured in inches or pounds. It's measured in determination and passion. Thanks for watching. If you want to hear the unbelievable story of another underdog who was written off as too skinny, also overlooked, and still carved out a soon-to-officially-be Hall of Fame career, check out our video on Henrik Zetterberg, how a skinny 7th rounder destroyed everyone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your favorite Marty St. Louis moment in the comments. See you in the next one.